want to take over number one, and then I'll jump to number two. Number one is the importance of a team being built.
So, once again, I learned a while ago, I can't do all this stuff, right? I can't write Xactimate. I can't write a report, a moisture map. So what we've done is we do an EOS system in our company. So my job is to bring work in and have a vision of the company. And I was asked when we first started doing this, what's my agenda for our firm? And my simple answer was, I'm be the most respected PA firm in the country. Respected on both sides. By my peers, by the insurance companies, by our vendors, and by everybody in this room. And that's our challenge, and we work on it every day, and it's hard as hell. But what we do is we invest in our team. We bring them to events. We train the living hell out of them, and we trust them to do the right thing. I've started hiring people with no experience. We talked about that this morning, because a lot of us have a lot of bad habits, okay? So we've had some success bringing people in to train our what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, right? The biggest thing our firm has, and all our vendors, is passion. I look for that number one. I don't care how many years of experience you have, how many licenses you have, what your GPA was, man. I look for people that give a damn about what we do, because without that drive and passion, it ain't gonna work, okay? I was a 2.0 student at Indiana University, and all my roommates had 4.0s, and I'm doing okay. So it ain't about the GPA all the time, guys. Staff member placement, I think TJ is gonna give a little quip about this later on today, but it's all about the seats in the bus. You don't have to be, if your talent is bringing claims in, thrive upon that. If your talent's writing estimates, thrive upon that. If your talent is adjusting claims, thrive upon that. We have a very narrow path of what we do. Everybody has a role, and we stick to that role. I don't want my adjusters running Xactimate, because it costs us money to do that. I want them submitting and negotiating. I want my environmental team writing reports. I don't want Chris on a roof. Number one, you don't know about no roofs,
you don't want that.
right? So we try and stick in our lanes. It's a big thing. Man, the last two here are a big deal. I try to do a great job of thanking my guys and girls every day for what they do for us as a firm, because they're the ones doing all the work. They're the ones I've had guys living in campers. I've had guys just in hurricane, we were in New Orleans, man, living in trailers for months on end, driving an hour and a half in every day, doing stuff. And that's a choice they make to work hard for us. And we want to make sure we value them, we appreciate them. Little cool stuff we do on the side for them, sending them a bottle of wine without them, just little stuff that means a lot to them. It means a lot to us that we appreciate them. Woo, this last one, not a great thing for me. I used to think it was I used to think it was do it the Jack Hanks way and it'll all be fine, okay? I've got older, I've got a little wiser, maybe a little softer. I've learned the pyramid's upside down. I'm on the bottom of that pyramid, okay? It's upside down. I work for them, they don't work for me. It's different. And once I changed that mindset a few years ago, our career and our firm launched tremendously. It's just, I listened. I turned down 31 large claims in Fort Myers because my business people didn't think it made sense for us to take it. And I'm like, damn, that would not have happened 3 years ago. But I listened to them, and they were actually right for us not taking it. I would have taken it 2 years ago, but I didn't do it this time. So listening and learning from your team is such a big thing. Us as public adjusters are mostly type A, very driven people, and we have our blinders and our earmuffs on too much. I know I do, and I work on that every day, is listen, 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 listen. And when I finally got to the point, I put my ego aside and just started running a business with compassion and caring and just trying to be a better person, it all starts making more sense, man. Making money in this business is easy. It's almost too easy, I'm gonna argue. Getting licenses is too easy, but being a good human and listening and giving a damn and respecting both sides is what it's all about, okay? Respect your vendors, respect your clients, respect the insurance companies, even though it's really hard not to hit that send button. Believe me, I know. Don't hit send all the time, man. Hide that stuff. So Listening's a big thing, and we're trying to do a better job of that at our firm. I think our success is growing because of a lot of these things. Chris?
Absolutely. And number two, the importance of an expert personnel. Jack's going to be hitting on a lot of these because obviously I'm not in the firm. I'm a vendor of that. So these type of things is what he's been successful at in building his firm, which obviously the knowledge needs to be given to anyone that wants to listen and build to that level. So he's very good at the expert personnel, bringing in the right people and that in that aspect. So fortunately, I'm one of them in that category. But the structural engineer, the roofing expert, the environmentalist, the general contractor, contents inventory specialist, they're here tonight, and the OSHA, which is Mr. Kevin, is here as well. So those are huge in the
So there's
set
no,
of claims.
one thing that drives me insane about our business is we wait for the attorneys to bring all these people in. No offense, I love my attorneys, but as a public adjuster, we're hired to prove the loss, right? You got to do this stuff to be successful. You can't just sit back and write an exactimate report and send it in, and they're going to go pound sand. Well, of course they're going to tell you that, right? So build a team around you, and these are the guys that know I'm not. Without Chris, we would not have the 1/10 of our success. But you got to trust these guys, understand them, and have these conversations. And it's expensive as hell. I'm not going to kid you. To do a large loss the correct way, to bring a structural engineer in, an environmentalist, we work with Kevin all the time. It's a big thing, and it takes a lot of money. However, if you plan it right, you got to talk to the insured about investing in their loss, right? To get $5, $6, $8, $9, $10 million on a claim, you can't just walk in with a 17 line item estimate, which I've seen. You got to invest in this stuff and do it right, and have the right people involved. Otherwise, there's no point. Don't flip it to the attorney. Transfer it to the attorney right away then if you can't handle it, right? And guys, biggest thing, if you're not ready to take large losses, partner with a company that you can with and do it with, because it's going to kill the industry. And the insurance companies know this. They know who the players are. Don't play games. They know, okay? They know, really.
Absolutely. And then 1 and 2 leads to number 3, and that's your duty and the commitment to the policyholder. So if you build the team and you build the expert personnel, your duty to the policyholder is set up for success. And that's, you're proving a loss by having the right team in place. And the communication, obviously, we hit on that yesterday. Everybody's been talking about that for the last 2 days, is answering the phone and just, being there for your policyholder, whether it's good news or bad news. They just want to talk to you. They hired you for a reason, so be that reason to make sure that you prove the loss. Jack can hit on the rest of the things, the fees and percentages.
Our fees, don't negotiate your fees. Stop with the 3 and 4 or 5% bullshit, please. Stop. You're worth more. You guys are worth more. Thank you.
And don't try to beat the next man out.
Don't be the cheapest guy on the block. You get what you pay for. I get asked all the time to cut our fees. I'm like, why? This is what you want. You want the A team, or you want the B team, or the C team? I don't. That's fine. You want to do it at 3%? I can't do it.
Right.
I lost a $21 million flood claim in Naples last week because somebody went down to 6. I'm like, I'm going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Did you steal that from me, Ron? What? Go ahead, Ron.
Race to the bottom.
Race to the bottom. We got to stop it. And there's huge firms, you know who they are. There's huge firms that are cutting their fee. And I'm sick of it. Stop it. I don't. I know Ron doesn't. There's no reason to, guys.
And that's hitting on what Candace talked about in her in the presentation, the fracture within. That is a fracture, and that causes controversy, that causes distrust, that causes people going back and forth talking about the other person, backstabbing. It's just uncalled for.
I mean, the state of Florida is already up our butts to cut our fees down. They're having a legislative session in a couple months to try to cut our fees. Yeah, but guys, we're causing that by somebody always undercutting us. Very, very, very rarely am I on a claim with another PA. We're not really selling the claim. We're explaining what we do. That's the sale. Having people understand what the hell we do for a living and why we do it and why our fee is 10% or sometimes 20% of whatever that number is, but don't reduce your fee. Have some confidence in your firm and what you all do.
Right.
Success ain't cheap, right? Having great vendors is not cheap. These guys are valuable as hell, and they deserve to be paid a premium for their services. I can call Chris and my other vendors, Todd Stern. They'll be out to claim the next day. But you know why? Because they know it's important, and that's what they do. They have pride and they care. Okay?
Absolutely. And explaining a truthful time frame.
Oh.
We wanted to make sure that we put that bullet point in there. Obviously, I don't represent clients. I'm not a PA. I'm a vendor. But I hear by being sometimes, most of the time, the first on the scene for that PA or for that attorney, they always ask, how long is this process? How long is it going to take? I was told it's going to be, pretty quick. We can get all this paperwork in. And, unfortunately, I have to tell them to refer back to their PA. But in my mind, I'm thinking, this is not a short process. This is going to be a long process, and be truthful with them so they know what to expect and don't put you in a bad situation when you have to lie to them.
Ron, that large claim you had, how long was that, bro?
The one that settled last year.
Yeah,
I had it, or,
the whole time.
well, we were originally scheduled to go to trial on March 23rd, 2020.
Yep,
Anybody remember what happened on March 21st?
yep.
We shut down the country.
So on a large loss, my first thing on my mouth, they always want to know how long. How long is it going to be? I'm like, we're going to be married for a year if it goes well. And people go like, oh my God. The other guy told me 60 days. I'm like, he's full of shit. He's full of shit. I would drop dead in 60 days if I got a claim paid on a multi-million-dollar claim. So once again, part of the problem we're having in the fracture is there's our competition, other PAs, other vendors, even some attorneys are like promising stuff that's not true. It's garbage, and it doesn't help, guys, because all of a sudden the 98% of us telling the truth, or we look like a-holes, and 99.999% of the time in the 61st day, when the estimate hasn't been written and the proof of loss hasn't been turned in, and no money's been exchanged, us as a group are assholes because that guy lied to their client. Please don't do that. If it's a large loss, it's a year. By the time you get it estimated, get it settled, get your proof of loss in, negotiate, get the building permit, get the building materials, which you can't even get half the time anymore. They can't get tile in Florida for 8 months. You got to tell these people this stuff, man, because their lives are at stake and they have to make business decisions on this claim. And us sugarcoating stuff and not laying it out in front of them, it doesn't help them. Their ALE may run out. They may only have 6 months of ALE. What are they going to do in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th month? They got to start thinking about that. So us hiding information from our client, no, stop it, please. Sorry if I'm preaching, but I get very passionate about this kind of stuff. So,
The policy language.
right?
Yep.
Enough is enough, Cal. Enough is enough with all this stuff, right?
And that's what we're here for, is to try to just, if we could change one person or get one person to listen, we've accomplished our goal. Policy language and possibility of litigation.
So when I was a younger PA, way back when, I used to think turning over claims to my attorneys, I was a failure. And it took me forever to realize that, you know what, I'm not a failure. I just didn't hit the home base. I got the third, I couldn't get him home, and bringing my legal team in that's the best thing for my insured. And my ego kept getting in the way. I'm like, damn, Hanks, you failed. You didn't get him home. Well, guess what? There's some claims we can be, the biggest frustration I have is I know I'm right, my stuff is right, my submission's right, my facts are all right, and I can still be told no. Because I can't get their attention the guy I need to get their attention to. That's what the attorneys do. They can get to that next level that we can't get to sometimes. Because I need the insurance company to make a business decision. Is it worth the risk to go on a trial on a $9 million claim with bad faith involved, or pay the damn claim? Sometimes I can't always get there. Okay, so I have before we start the process, I warm my clients up to this. Maybe. We may have to go to court on it. We'll never go to court, right? It'll settle on the stairs a few times. But you got to talk to them about this. Once again, you got to let them be okay. It's their decision where we go or not, right? But you got to give them that information. If you don't give them the information to make their decisions on, you're not helping, man. Don't hide stuff from these insureds. They're smart people.
Yes.
We're dealing with their property and their livelihoods that's their most invaluable asset, is their home or their business.
Absolutely.
And we need to be respectful of that.
Is there any questions on this before we move on?
No, other than your arrangement with attorneys, I've done it very little.
Okay?
I was trying to do it, but is there enough money after, we're trying to amend this thing?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Before we all get involved in a litigation, I give 3 names, right? I give 3 law firms out. I want my client, because everybody has a different personality, right? I need my client to match up with somebody that they're gonna have a relationship with, because you think we have a long process, litigation crap might take a year or 2. So it's a long, arduous thing. So I try to match them up personality-wise with a law firm that would make sense for them. We have a quick Zoom call, we introduce everybody, and then my client, I don't make them, I go take a few days and relax and think about it, right? And we forewarn them on the process, and there's difficult conversations there, okay? But you gotta get them, you just gotta have them understand that you did everything you could and you can't get them home, okay? You're not a failure, you didn't screw the claim up, you just can't get there. You can't get the right guy's attention, so, part of it. But I have 3 or 4 law firms I work with that are just good people, and they care, and we have a rapport, and I call them all the time for advice, because I don't always want, I'm a horrible client for our law firms, but we have great relationships with our law firms. Does that make sense?
Good.
Okay?
So moving on to that, this is a little bit of the documentation based on the facts and a non-biased approach.
Yes.
We hit on this a little bit on part 1. And a lot of other speakers have hit on this of being non-biased. I really can't speak on structural engineering or roofers or content specialists, because I'm not a content specialist and I'm not a structural engineer. But it's very important that you have these guys on your team. Obviously, by being in the industry as long as I have, that the structural engineer can prove if the building is ragged, if it's got structural damage, and the documentation with that is crucial. To either be a total loss or get a whole new roof, framing system done. So all of these bullet points are very, very important to have these people on your team. Kevin, I'm sorry I didn't have enough room on my slide for the OSHA on here. But obviously your documentation and having a roofing expert that knows all the layers, knows that that he can do a core sample and is solid. Contents, we have one of the best content specialists in the room tonight, documenting all of that. That's crucial. If you want to, Candace hit on that earlier, most of all of that stuff would already be to the road, and you don't have 2,000 photos in a spreadsheet built and getting it over to your clients to start putting prices on there. They just take a couple photos and think that it's going to be covered. Well, that's not the case. So it's very important to get them guys in there to do that first. Before they throw it all to the road, because once it's to the road, it's in piles, it gets further damaged, rain, the wind picks it, whatever it may be. Looters, all your refrigerators got picked up by scrap guys last week. So hitting back to the environmental part of that, I can speak heavily on that because that's what I do. It's very important that we get in there immediately to make sure that we get our asbestos samples, get all the proper moisture readers, get our Matterport, get our drones photos. A lot of mitigation guys and environmental consultants don't realize how important a drone is. Think, oh, I'm not the exterior guy. I'm not the exterior guy, but I want to show where that water came in at. I want to show that storm created opening. I want to show that roof has been tarped and to prevent further damage. Our Matterports are very important, obviously, for all the documentation, but it's also important that I have that floor plan to create that scope, and I have that floor plan to give my client the blank ESX file. They're not going to have a ESX file based off of just what my report is. I'm in there. I owe that to them. That is my job. It's one click of a mouse and $159 to have a true sketch drawn up by Matterport. So why not do it? Go the extra mile for your client.
And guys, if you're waiting for the insurance company to do all this stuff, you guys are nuts. Get your asses in there, get your specialists in there, and get the claim moving in the direction it needs to be. Yep. A lot of guys wait for the insurance company for the okay. No, man, we're hired to do this.
Yes.
We are hired to do this.
You wouldn't believe how many conversations just get sparked and the light up on the adjuster's face, or young and associates I meet out on the jobs every day that says, hey man, I'm going to save you 4 hours of scoping this hotel or whatever the case may be because I have an ESX file for you. I've already provided one to my client. What does it matter if I send that to the insurance carrier or the adjuster? I just saved him a bunch of time, and now I'm on his good side. I'm here to help. I
And
already
it's-
have it, so why be a prick about it?
And it's transparency, right? We want to deal with the same base of facts and information for both sides so we can both make an opinion and present our cases, right? Our job is to prove the loss. Their job is to not pay the loss, right? Or find not to cover the loss, right? But we got to do our job, and if 1,000 people have said it today and yesterday. Help the carrier get to the point where they can write the check.
Yep.
That is our freaking job, not sitting back and waiting and asking for the check. You tell them what they owe. Here's what you owe because of this, and
Please,
this.
I encourage you to go double check my measurements. Go double check that the rooms
Hell yeah.
are all done. Here it is. I'm making it easier for you. Go do your job. I'm not here, but this is the helpfulness that we will grant you to make sure that we see that we're both on both sides and we're both here to hopefully protect the insured. I know one side is, but if you choose not to be, then we're coming at you with the facts. So
Facts win claims.
yes.
Hope, once again, I'm going to keep preaching this. Hope is not a business plan, guys. Hoping you send in your Xactimate without all the proper documentation is not going to get that claim bought. It's not.
Yes.
This will every 99.999% of the time.
Right.
Right?
And I'm glad Candace hit on something in her presentation leading up to ours. The next slide that we're about to show is what I feel is probably the most three important documentations that you're going to have. Obviously, your structural engineer is super important. Your roof is very important. But the next three documentations that I'm going to show you is what a mitigation company and definitely for sure an interior consultant should provide you. What that's going to do is that's going to basically set the whole claim up for success. If your mitigation company and your interior consultant documents the proper files and gives you all the proof in the world to go to war for that file, your contractor shouldn't have a problem because if I can get it one that's coming out, he shouldn't have no trouble getting it back in. So a lot of guys in here and across the industry think that we need that GC's numbers to be on point. We need that GC's numbers to show all of that. That's not the case. We need the mitigation company and the interior consultant to have his documentation solid because everything else behind that follows. So these three documents is what you should have in your file every job. Large loss, residential, it does not matter. When I go out to a job, I'll produce the very first document that I produce, whether it's a fire, whether it's a mold, whether it's a water, you got to produce a protocol. So the first part of that is going to be your service authorization. We want to prove to them that we've been hired by the policyholder, not the PA, not the attorney. We want to be hired by the policyholder. We have the best interest of the policyholder at heart. Your license and certificates. Why you earned them? Show them. You earned them. Tell them what you're about. Tell them what it is. Show them what they're up against. If they want to balk at all of our information, hire somebody that's got equal or better than what I have. If not, my documentation is going to trump theirs. Second thing is your air quality testing. As you can see, I don't know if you can see up there, but some of those are red and purples. That's the very first. That's before demo's been done. That's before anything's been done in the home. That's right there is going to warrant your ALE to kick in. That one little simple document right there with 1, 2, 3, 4 air qualities. They have more in that house, but 4 air qualities in that home shows your policyholder and the carrier that home cannot be lived in. It's inhabitable. That's going to kick in for your ALE. That's the proof that you have. That's the proof that you need. There's no other proof that can show besides the ceilings caving in, and obviously, but if you don't have extensive damage, then that's the proof that you need that the ductwork is contaminated. Your air is not good. They can't stay there.
'Cause once again, the desk adjuster in Omaha, Nebraska is not going to know without that.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
They haven't been there. The IA is there for 14 minutes.
Now, and
Right.
remember that this water mitigation this report is getting there into the carrier's hands before the adjuster's even there. So he knows all of this. He knows what he's up against before he even steps foot on that job. He knows what the status of the job is. Getting back into the Matterport. So we produce a floor plan that's going to get marked up. We want to give them a solid scope of a moisture mapping. Hey, all of these walls in purple right here is a 4-foot flood cut because of this. all that in red over there, the ceilings need to come out because of this. We want to lay it all out to them. There's nothing hidden. The facts are the facts. Then we go in, obviously, to your asbestos testing. There's so much controversy around asbestos right now that I put it all. Every single job that I do is getting tested, plain and simple. You got materials that have asbestos that was produced in 2000s, and we're still finding it. And it's just, get it done. We know there's a lot of exclusions in asbestos, but then there's not. But at the same time, the asbestos goes back to what Kevin was talking about of keeping my workers safe. If you know that it's hot, or if you assume that it's hot, just get it tested so you know what direction you need to have for your workers. If it comes back negative, then fantastic. You don't have to you can just follow your regular protocol. But what duty do we have as contractors and mitigation companies to assume or not even care about it being hot for asbestos and just send workers in there? What if you send them in there and it's hot and it comes back and they get sick? Guess who didn't test? Guess who sent them into a hot zone? You. You see all of these ads on TV about mesothelioma, asbestos lawsuits, all of that. You guys are responsible if you do not get it tested to at least have the proof that your jobs are not hot. Scoping, Matterport, that's all of that. Your industry standards, all of that should be in there. Your photographs, your moisture mapping, this should be the whole life of the start of the file. That should be in a mold protocol and a water mitigation report. I write that. The client in turn gives that to the mitigation company. Hopefully they follow it, but at the same time it still gets turned into the carrier. The next one, this is huge for mitigation companies. I don't know if you have anybody in here that's MIT, but I'm telling you guys this is because this is what you need to request and demand from any of your mitigation and environmentalist vendors. You have to get this. Operational progress report. We want a revised floor plan. If this floor plan here is different than that floor plan because you opened up the walls and you found more damage, document it. We want to show the supplemental items that was never seen behind the walls. Like these two photos over here, you would never see that you had damage in that wall until you open it up. You would never see on the third photo that you had mold on the back side of that cabinet without taking it out. How do we know that mold is there? We assumed it on our first initial inspection because the wall tested wet, but the carrier is assuming that we're just going to detach and reset that cabinet. Now I have proof that cabinet has to be removed and replaced. So all of this stuff right here needs to be documented while that mitigation company is working. That's very, very important. Your photographs of the moisture readings. We want to make sure that we test that when they remove that carpet. We want to test and check the moisture of that subfloor. We couldn't check that subfloor in our initial inspection. We didn't know that needed to be dry. It might need to be removed. It might have batten insulation underneath this raised house. Some things that we can't find on our initial inspection needs to be done by the mitigation company to warrant more charges or back our initial findings. Photographs of microbial growth, your photographs of your damaged areas. These two next ones are very big. The photographs of the dumpsters, your personnel and PPE, and your equipment on the job sites. How many times that you had an adjuster say, there's no way, I'm calculating this demo up, and you should only need about 300 square feet of a dumpster. Well, they didn't know that you had to take into consideration for the cabinets. You didn't know all of this. So the photographs of the dumpsters with the time date stamped on there of how many dumpsters you use goes a long way. It could save your mitigation guys and not have extra charges that your client might have to pay out of pocket if the insurance company, you don't have the proof. So all those little photographs is what I determined to be mandatory from a mitigation company to do that. Now I inspect, I'm not there sitting on the jobs all day long while the guys are mitigating it, but I do pop in to my jobs at least once every other day to take my own photos because obviously they're taking their photos and I can defend that if they're good photos, but I still want my own photos for my own deposition purposes if I get called in. So the operational report backs up any additional charges, but also shows that the proof is facts. Your number one report that we're going to war with, and we're stating that all of this is damaged, is backed by facts. Facts and facts. So then we get into the third, probably one of the most underrated, most important documentations that is in the market, in the industry right now. In the state of Florida right now, there are so many mitigation companies that are not hiring a third party to come behind them to issue a certificate of completion. What this does is that it's a third party that's coming in to photograph the scope to make sure that it was properly done based off of the original damage and also the damage that we determined during mitigation. We want to warrant that. We want to show them that, hey, all this equipment that we're charging for got these studs down to industry standards. We want to show them that all of these studs are dry because of the equipment that we put in. We want to show them that we took air quality samples. This is number one when we started. This is number two here, that it's a passing air quality. So that means that our clients are safe to start rebuild with no mold spores based off of number one, where we had a ton of mold spores. And also too, what that does is that warrants that the contractor can get started, and we share that liability. If for some reason that mitigation company doesn't follow my protocol, guess who's responsible? They are. If they follow my protocol and something happens, guess who's responsible? I am. I'm responsible. So when we go through, why does it cost so much for this? Well, we're sharing a liability. It's not just me going taking some documentations out there and some photos. We're sharing a liability. If something happens, one of us or both of us didn't do something right. So it's very, very crucial that we get these certificate of completions, the dry logs. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room has been requested dry logs from an insurance carrier. That seems to be very repetitive right now, that is their go-to. Whenever you turn in your invoices, send me the dry logs. And 9 times out of 10, you don't even have them. So you gotta contact the mitigation company. They gotta get it over to you. You gotta get it to the adjuster, and you've lost weeks, probably weeks, if not days of time just for one simple documentation. But at the same time, they should be doing it anyway because their dry logs pays and is the proof of the equipment. They needed it for an amount of time. They tracked all of these studs. They tracked the bottom plate, showing that, it was high, and now we're medium. Now we're almost close to there. Now we're done. 4 days of drying. It's tracked. They should automatically have that in their file. The post-test lab results of passing is very, very important. And also the photographs of a clean and safe work site. Whenever you have a clean and safe work site, you can get your final cleaning, you can get your OSHA your charges that they followed everything, they had all of their stuff tagged and ready to go. So just hitting back on these 3 documents, if you do not have these in your file from a mitigation standpoint before contractor gets there, it's very important that you request these documents, because this sets the tone for the rest of the claim after that. So,
Cool.
no problem. Is there any questions on this? Yes, sir.
Mitigating,
Yes, sir.
you're doing the asbestos.
Yes, sir.
These walls that come out, they have lead in the paint.
Yes, sir.
Are your guys being able to remove those kind of elements without, getting them pre-approved as far as lead and asbestos? As far as mitigating, those walls are coming out. But, are they?
Well, my personal and professional opinion on that is that, obviously it needs to be tested first to make sure that it is. Then you obviously got to read the policy to see if there's any exclusions in there. But that's arguable, because if you have water damage inside your wall and it does test hot for the asbestos, it tests hot for the asbestos in your mud, just because you have an exclusion for the asbestos doesn't mean that you just leave it. You can't leave it. You have a duty to mitigate your damage.
Just make sure
It's documented, you have that, you read the policy, but at the same time, it does warrant charges for asbestos, because that you got more plastic containment, you got more PPE, you got air quality monitoring while those people are in there. So it brings it to a whole nother level of asbestos.
the mitigator, they have to do their job. And just as long as it's documented, just do it and build it.
Yes, absolutely. But also, too, you need to make sure that your mitigation company has all the HERA and NESHAP and OSHA requirements to abate asbestos. A lot of mold companies don't do asbestos because of the liability and how much of the process is different for that. And the process of the mitigation is not different. It's the process of all the extra safety items that go in to abating asbestos. So, yep,
Next
that's
slide.
that's pretty much what we have. If no one has any other questions, we'll get to lunch and.
You see the theme of all this, guys? We're part of the fracture by not doing this stuff the same way every time and being accurate with facts, okay? If we get anything across to you guys today, be a professional and be better than the carrier. Be better than the carrier. It doesn't take a lot, but we got to be perfect every time. We got to be perfect every time.
And this is just one trade.
That's one trade.
We go back to this list right there, and you should have 6 to 7 to 8 documents that are like that
Yeah.
to win this file. That was just mine. That's just me. I'm not a roofer. I don't know anything about roofs.
How many PAs in the room bring their own engineers in? Everybody or no? A few.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Is there a question I saw? No?
They said, what was your question? They
Oh,
wanted
how many PAs bring their own engineering firms in? Okay, good. If you don't, you're doing it wrong. Okay? We're not engineers. We're adjusters. Okay? That's true, you did. Or Trump Plaza. Right? Cool. Guys, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Being a
Thank
great
you.
PA is hard. Work hard. All right, guys? Thank you.